Welcome to a new episode of Perfect Imperfections, a safe space for healing. And with new episode, I really mean brand spanking new episode, because it has been a while since I recorded for this podcast. And that had everything to do with my personal life and with which direction it took. And me just not knowing how to talk about it to the world. I have shared it with friends and family along the way, but I didn't feel the space within myself to talk about it to the rest of the world. But now I do, so I really want to take this opportunity and let you in on what my life has been like the last 2 years. And to share that with you, I have to tell you my origin story. And I call it an origin story because I am a fantasy, Marvel, superhero, quest-like journey type of fan. And in that perspective, origin story just fits so much better. Because as you all know, as I've shared before, I've been on this journey of self-healing, of breaking 2 barriers and really facing myself, my limiting beliefs, my fears. And it's been quite a journey, and I've been through a lot of things, personal, but also publicly. And I've shared my burnout with you before. And based on that, I had hired a coach, Marjolein. And while I was working with Marjolein, I slowly, bit by bit, came to know myself more. I was reintroduced to myself, as it were. And during that time, because this now was, I have to do my math here. It's now 2025. That was 2022. I hired her in 21. But the period of my life that I want to share with you plays out in 22. Because in that time, I traveled to Canada, which really helped me get back in contact with myself. And I still had sessions with Marjolein online while I was there. And we picked it up when I came back and we did them face to face. And I want to take you to November of that year. Because as you might know, my dad no longer lives. And he died in the month of December. And in 2022, it had been 9 years since his passing. But it would have been the first December month I would be on my own. I was no longer in a relationship. I was not going to visit my family. My brother and my sister do not live in the Netherlands, and my mom had other plans. And I kind of wanted to face the month on my own. But as you can imagine, I felt a lot. Some anxiety, some fear. And that's when I had a session with Marjolein in November. Because I could already feel the build-up. I could feel it coming. And with Marjolein, sometimes we did sessions where we talked a lot, where she helped me reflect on the things that I was saying, things that she would notice. Other times we would have sessions where she would have me do exercises. And I don't mean the physical kind, as in crunches, push-ups. No. She would walk me through certain processes, and I had to for instance, do constellations or writing exercises. But what we've also done in the past were oracle card readings, where we would zoom in on a subject and we would use an oracle card deck to see what would be reflected back to me and how I would respond to certain things. So the sessions with Marjolein were really diverse. The one that we had in November, though, was a talking session online. And I shared with her that I felt all these emotions, that I was also a bit scared of feeling all the emotions with the month of December coming in, knowing that that would be the 9th anniversary of my father's passing. We had all these family-oriented holidays like Sinterklaas, Christmas, New Year's, and I was going to be on my own for the first time in 9 years. And as we started talking, Marjolein at one point said she knows I'm open-minded, and I was aware that she was doing a light channeler course. And for those who do not know the term light channeler, that is someone who connects to spirit, connects to energy in whichever form that may present itself. A light channeler might also go by the name of a medium. And that was a course that Marjolein was doing. That's also one of the reasons why she worked with oracle cards. And she had taken me along on her journey in that. And as we were having this session, at a certain point, she said, Evita, I feel that your dad is here with us. Would you like to connect with him? And I said, yes, I would really appreciate that. But I also said, I have no clue how to do that, what to do. So can you please guide me in that? So she did. She made sure that I was comfortable and had me close my eyes to be present in my body. And then basically gave me a guided meditation, sort of, to help me connect with my dad. And the moment that I did, it was incredible, because I had this picture, image, vision of my dad that I could see, and I could feel his energy, and it was warmth all around. It was so nice and so healing to reconnect with my dad. Of course, it also brought up some more emotions, but it was all good, all positive. Felt a lot of love and comfort. And then when the moment passed, Marjolein helped me to get out of this meditative state. We talked some more about it. And all in all, it was this incredible experience. And in that moment, I was so grateful for Marjolein for facilitating this moment. Because I would not have been able to do that without her there. And she was the bridge that helped me do this. And like I said, it was absolutely incredible. And then we wrapped it up, and that was that. It was done, and we would have another session in December. And as always, Marjolein would be available to me per WhatsApp or anything else if something came up in the meantime. After this session, I thought nothing of it. It's what happened. It was fine. And I went on with life as I was doing all along. And then the next week, I was in my yoga class, which I, at that point, did on Monday evenings and Friday mornings. So Monday evening, I was in yoga and I was stretching, I was doing, it was good. And the whole reason I had started yoga was to get out of my head and more in touch with my body, and just an hour of not thinking. Because my mind is always on. And an hour of not thinking, focusing on the physical, that's just so relaxing for me. And at the end of the lesson, we would always do 5 to 10 minutes of shavasana, which is laying on the floor in a relaxing pose. For me, that's flat on my back. And then just be in touch with your body, but in a more relaxing manner than doing all the poses. I loved shavasana. And what I would always do during that was check in with my chakras. And I would envision them as these orbs with the corresponding colors of the chakras. And then just feel into it, see how brightly the colors were, or feel it. And then just go from my root to the sacral, to the solar plexus, to the heart, the throat, the ajna, and the head, the crown chakra. And the colors corresponding are red, orange, yellow, green or pink, light blue, darker blue, indigo, and purple. At least that's the color pattern that I do. And it would be so relaxing to just move through them in that minute of shavasana. So I am laying there Monday evening, all poised to do it, and I am working through it. And I believe it was around my heart chakra, which for me has always been pink. And I am there, and all relaxed. And out of nowhere, I think about my dad. And he is there. I could see him in my mind's eye. He was there. He was hugging me. He was so happy to see me, to connect with me. And I was just in shock. It was incredible to connect with my dad again. But Marjolein wasn't there this time. She wasn't the one facilitating this and bridging this. And I was in yoga in a class with all these other people around me. And my dad was there. It was so beautiful, but so overwhelming at the same time that I did not know what to do with myself, basically. The tears started coming from my eyes because the longing that I felt to reconnect with my dad, to feel him, see him again, to talk to him. The relationship between me and my dad had always been one where words were not needed. It had always been so safe, so natural. Whereas every other connection in my life, I had to put in some form of work to make it work, to understand myself, to understand the other person, to put in effort. And with my dad, it had always just been there. No work necessary, just easy flowing. So to reconnect with him, that longing, it was a lot to process, lying there on my back, on the floor, in this yoga studio, with all these other people around me, and the teacher telling everybody to reconnect with their body. Okay, yeah, no. So when the teacher was wrapping up and wrapping up the class as well, I was in pieces. I was trying to keep it all together to not show to anyone else in that class how emotional I was. Because I didn't know what to do with myself, and I didn't feel comfortable or in that moment safe enough to express it to others. Because at that point in my self-healing journey, showing that amount of emotion and vulnerability didn't feel safe. So I didn't. So I packed my stuff and got out of there as quickly as I could. And then on my way home, because I walked that bit, it's like 45-minute walk, and I can make it longer if I want to, through this nature area. So the moment I was out of there and without earshot of anyone else leaving that facility, I called Marjolein, crying my eyes out. Because with her, I did feel safe enough to release the emotions that I was feeling, to acknowledge them, to give them space and releasing. So me in tears, hiccuping all the way through my story that I was in Shavasana, I connected with my dad, he was there, but Marjolein wasn't there, she wasn't facilitating this, how was this possible? And that it felt that amazing, and that at the same time it was so scary, and that I didn't feel comfortable having that in that space. And Marjolein, she let me vent for a good amount of time first before speaking up. Because in that moment, I confirmed what Marjolein had already confirmed for herself the previous week, but had already had an inkling of for months. And that is that I have psychic abilities. That I, myself, can connect with energies, that I can most likely feel them, that I can see them, and that I can communicate with them as well. So in that sense, it means I don't need a bridge to connect with the spirit. But in my mind, I had figured I'd only been able to do that the previous week because Marjolein was there, and she actually made the connection, and I was just, I don't remember what I was thinking, but in my mind, it had only been possible for me to connect with my dad because Marjolein had facilitated it. That's not how psychic abilities work. If you're able to connect with it, you have unlocked your psychic abilities yourself, and you can do it yourself. But at that point in time, I did not know that. So now looking back on it, I was so naive, and it's so sweet and cute to look back on it and to hear Marjolein talk about it as well, because we are still in contact. But in that moment, Marjolein was my safe space, and she let me talk about it, and let me just vent every emotion, every insecurity, every thought that popped up. Just let it all out. And one of the concerns that I had wasn't that I was able to connect with my dad. That wasn't necessarily strange for me. But it was more the situation in which it happened. The fact that I didn't do it on purpose, that I didn't take a moment or created a moment to do it, but that it had just happened. It was sprung on me during a very public place at my yoga class. I was definitely uncomfortable with that. So not the connecting with my dad, but more the time and place it had happened. And Marjolein, who was then still very much in her own course to become a light channeler. Well, you don't become a light channeler. You are one or you're not. But she was in this course to remember, basically. And she said, well, Evita, I think this and this would be the correct course of action to take, but let me check with my teacher and I'll come back to you. I said, yes, please. Yes, please. Still crying my eyes out. So the next day, Marjolein comes back to me stating, okay, Evita, I checked with my teacher, and as I thought, what you need to do is you need to connect back with your father on your own timing, in your own setting, when you want, however you want. And then you need to let him know that there are certain rules. Things you do want, things you don't want. You are the one that is in control of the experience and the connection. But you have to connect with him to tell him what it is that you do and do not want. And then I said, well, okay, Marjolein, can you help me with that? Can you help me do that? Can you do that for me? Because again, my mind had not caught up to the fact that I was able to do it myself. Somewhere there was still that bit, but yeah, no, Marjolein can do that. And she facilitates this for me. And Marjolein was, no, Evita, I have full faith in you. You can do this yourself. And that was the end of the conversation. Oh, crap. This, but then much longer went on in my head, like, how, what, why, nah, ooh. Yeah, in times of emotional overwhelm or panic or uncertainty, my mind likes to get into that zone and makes all those kind of noises. And sometimes I make them out loud. But here I was. I had been given a solution. And I had yoga again on Friday morning. I did not want it to happen again. So there was basically no other choice for me than to do what Marjolein had instructed me to do. She had even put it in words, in text, via WhatsApp to me. So I could have my cheat sheet with me. But yeah, she was not going to do it for me. I had to do it myself. And I was nervous. Because my mind was stuck on but how? How? Well, I can tell you that loop of how, once that is in my head, it is a tough one to break. So I was postponing and postponing and postponing. But then Thursday evening, yeah, I felt like I had no other choice than to just do it and to give it a go, because Friday morning I was in yoga again and I didn't want to repeat of Monday evening. So I set the scene for myself, just as Marjolein had done with me on the call. Make sure I was comfortable. And then took the time to be in somewhat of a relaxed state, as relaxed as I could be in that moment, doing something I was so nervous about. And for me, I've always thought in pictures and images. I'm a very visual thinker. Even words, I can see them in my head. So I used the same image as I had seen on Monday and the week previously of my dad. And the moment I saw it in my head, I was in contact with my dad again. He was just there and I could feel him. And again, it felt incredible. But I was also still very nervous, so I couldn't feel everything to the depth I would have liked now in hindsight. And And before I contacted my dad, I had figured what I did and didn't want. I had written it all down. And again, having my cheat sheet with me. And as I was in that meditative state, connecting with my dad, I just told him, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. This made me feel uncomfortable. I think I'm open to connecting with you. But then when to a moment of my choosing, which is not during yoga, not during Shavasana, that is my relaxing time. And I was like, okay, I still have to figure out when I will contact you, but I will. But it will be then to a moment of my choosing. This went on for a little bit because I was still not fully believing that I was doing this and that I was capable of and that it would work or possibly would work. I didn't know that. So after I closed down the connection, I said, okay, Dad, I'm going. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. And then I was like, okay, crap. This is a Hail Mary. Let's just hope it had worked. Friday morning, I was back at yoga. And we done all the physical stuff first, but that was fine. That was not what I was nervous about. I was nervous about the Shavasana part. So we get to the Shavasana part. I'm laying back down on my mat and my teacher starts talking as usual about breathing to certain body parts, to be present in your body. And like I said before, I would usually take that time to not listen to my teacher and do my own thing as checking in with my chakra points. That's what I would use that time for. So I would never really listen to her. I would just do my own thing. But this was one of the other parts, what Marjolein had said, is that for now, it might be best if I do listen to the teacher and follow her instructions along versus going off and doing my own thing. If I wanted to make sure that nothing like on Monday with my dad showing up would happen again. So I tried to listen to her. I really tried. And she is very good. But that's just not what I do. It felt off. I didn't feel relaxed at all. So I was just like, okay, fuck it. I'm just going to have to trust that what I did the previous night, setting the rules with my dad, was clear enough and I can do my own thing here. So I start my own ritual and I start with connecting to my root chakra, the red one. And that feels like it always does. It feels normal. It feels comfortable. No weird things happening. So I was like, I can do this. I can do this. And let's move on. And that is when everything changed.